Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be previewing this weekend's fights, and it's an exciting weekend of fights. We've got Naoya Inoue fighting in Japan, Dalton Smith in Nottingham, and Diego Pacheco over in the States as well. So straight into the good stuff, straight into the preview. If you haven't already, subscribe. Episodes every week. Check it out. Where do you want to start? Do we start with Inoue? Do we start with Dalton Smith? Where do you want to go?
Inoue first. It was our Friday night.
I think so.
It's quite nice to have a lot more boxing back now. We're back to some sort of normality where we've got numerous shows to cover on the weekend. It's quite nice because last weekend there wasn't anything on, so it's nice to get back previewing stuff instead of looking back at stuff as well.
What about the Misfits card?
Yeah, the old Misfits card. I don't even want to talk about that absolute shambles.
I can't. Wayne Briggs is coming back. Let's go.
It's not even worth the time on the SD card to talk about that at the moment.
Naoya
Inoue, it's not Sam Goodman, is it? Which is a shame. Obviously, they had the cut, and then it seems he's reopened it as well. Disappointing, fighting Ye Joon Kim, South Korean fighter. I mean, he's no slouch, but it certainly shouldn't be a test for Inoue, should it?
No, I think it's just keeping himself ticking over. And I think, do you reckon more than likely, because Goodman's still technically the mandatory challenger, because because of the cut, he had to pull out. So I'm guessing he'll still get a fight next. So,
yeah, I suppose. I mean, if they get some kind of medical exemption, I suppose. But if not, then maybe they will just move on to the next person. You never know, and then maybe Inoue can just pick, basically. I mean, do you think, though, that Sam Goodman was really going to cause Inoue the problems?
No.
Because ultimately then, this fight's no different. We're seeing a man who we don't expect to give Inoue any problems instead of a man who we didn't really expect to give Inoue any problems.
There's not many fighters out there, I think, that can compete with Inoue. The level he's on is quite difficult. It's felt like that probably for the last 18 months now. We've just been waiting for who's next to try and take him out. But the one everyone I think wants to see is the Akhmadaliev fight. That's the fight they're trying to build up.
You talked about mandatory challengers. He is a mandatory challenger to Inoue, and he's being pushed to one side and he's being ignored. I would have been, I doubt it would have happened, but imagine if Akhmadaliev came in on short notice for this fight after the fight in Monaco. It wouldn't never have happened, but you got to give props as well to Kim for coming in on short notice. The guy has won 2 fights since a shock defeat against some journeyman, and then the last time he fought in Japan was back in 2014 when he won the WBC World Youth. He is a decent level fighter, but he is nowhere near the standards and level of Naoya Inoue, the monster.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose what we can look at then is this year's plan for Naoya Inoue. What do we see? Do we see, how many more fights do we see at super bantamweight before he possibly moves up to featherweight? I think that is something that's on the horizon. The way he builds himself up weight-wise, naturally, just a little bit by little bit until he's really tight for that weight, and then just moves up. And he's done it a couple times already, and I think we'll probably see him do it again up to featherweight. But is that probably 2026's agenda? Do you think have another year at super bantam? This fight, Goodman, Akhmadaliev, and then on to next year maybe.
Yeah, I think so. It's not even just the weight. I think he's just running out of opponents at this point of this weight class, and I don't think until you see him go up another weight class or two, that's when you'll see him get tested a bit more, where obviously the weight advantage is not going to be on his side as much. But yeah, I think the one thing that's interesting for me this year is to see whether he has any involvement with sort of Riyadh season or Ring Magazine, whether he's sort of involved in any of those shows. Yeah,
because we saw him sign the sort of contract with Turkey, whatever was on that contract, we don't know, but there's some sort of agreement in place, and we haven't seen it come to fruition yet, and it will do, won't it? We'll see him either on a Riyadh season show or now on a Ring Magazine show. I think Bob Aaron said, we remember in the Ring, that he wanted to get him out to Vegas. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in Vegas on a Ring Magazine show at all.
I think David Picasso, they're saying that he's going to be fighting in a couple of months' time in Vegas in his USA return. But I think what a lot of people need to remember as well, Inoue is the star in boxing over in Japan. He is the one that can sell out the Tokyo Superdome easily for fights. And I'm not too sure if this fight's at the Tokyo Dome. I doubt it is.
No, it's not.
Was the Goodman fight at the Tokyo Dome, or was it?
No,
Okay,
It's
so
in the Ariake
so his
Arena.
last time then he fought at the Tokyo Dome was against Lewis Neri then. So
Correct, yeah.
it's a I just want to see that Akhmadaliev fight. I think that's what everyone wants to see, where people then will have question marks on Inoue. Can he beat Akhmadaliev? Can he put up a decent performance? And I think Akhmadaliev can ask a lot of questions of Inoue as well, maybe send him to some deep waters. But I expect him to come through this fight on Friday night or Friday morning. Friday morning for us. Friday night over in Japan.
Yeah, I believe so.
Weird that it's on a Friday night. Normally Japan boxing, we're having it watching on a Monday morning, Wednesday morning, even Tuesday. But no, it's good to have him back in the ring, and he's out early. He's out against an opponent that we're all expecting him to get through quite comfortably, which then means he can come out again relatively with a short turnaround, and then hopefully we see him in a big fight come the end of this year.
Yeah, we could talk about Inoue all day. We've said this a number of times, but this maybe isn't the one to talk about Inoue all day. It's a fight just to keep him fit and active. The card elsewhere on it is a decent card. I do like the Japanese cards. I like a lot of the Japanese fighters. But there's not any sort of standout names for me, to be honest, from some of the other cards. So let's jump on over to Nottingham, to Dalton Smith, Walid Ouizza. I'm going for the EBU European. So hopefully another belt for Dalton Smith before he possibly kicks on to that world level. And it's got quite a good undercard as well. There's some really exciting fighters on there. The one, obviously, Harry Scarffe, Conah Walker is going to be a belter. Ellie Scotney's fighting on there for a world title, for a number of world titles. Ibrahim Suleiman, Hamza Ad-Din. There's some quality fighters on there.
Yeah, it's a really good card. Good. This is the first sort of big card match room we're doing UK this year. But yeah, looking forward to seeing Dalton Smith back out. Interesting to see whether they'll be building still towards our Adam Azim fight in the future, because that's what it looks as if they're building towards. That could be a good world title fight probably for the both of them if they can both get their hands on a world title, or a unification fight for the two of them. But yeah, good to see him back out, because he was meant to be out late last year, but was it he picked up an injury, or was it?
Yeah,
he was meant to be fighting Ouizza.
Was his the fight card with then Johnny Fisher replaced, and then Johnny Fisher got injured?
That went from Sheffield to London, and then London
back to Sheffield. Yeah, with eventually it was Rhiannon Dixon, Terry Harper, wasn't it? Dalton Smith as well has a chance to pick up the WBC silver in this fight. Oh no, he's already got the WBC silver. Sorry, so he's defending that.
Yeah.
So it puts him again in just a really strong place. You got the European, British, Commonwealth, I think as well. He's got in the past, and then he's got the WBC silver. He's due a world title fight this year,
especially when his last fight against Cepeda, how impressive he looked in with the stoppage, and that was meant to sort of be his big test, see where he was sort of at, but he come through that with flying colours and looked really good. It's just a sort of shame that we've had to wait so long to see him back out because of the injury, but yeah, I can see it being a big year for him, and hopefully pushing on towards our world title shot now by the end of the year.
I think that performance against Cepeda as well, when everyone was talking about Dalton Smith, if he gets through this, he could potentially be fighting Adam Azim. I think that performance there just showed that Dalton Smith is a little bit higher up now in the level of, and Adam Azim's down here somewhere. But Saturday night is a decent test for him, because you look at his opponent, he's won the European silver title, so he isn't coming to lose, because that's like we said, Dalton Smith has won the WBC silver. The next step up is the world title now. For this guy, his next step up is the European title, so he's ready for it. And
the WBC silver's on the line for him, so
exactly.
If he wins it, then he's in line for that.
His entire career could change if he upsets here against Dalton Smith, and everyone wants to see Dalton Smith get that world title shot, which for me he rightly deserves. And it's just, it's a good fight. 12 rounds, I reckon, of pure back and forth. But yeah, I'll leave my predictions for the end. But I think Dalton Smith can get through this comfortably. And again, like what I said about Inoue, if he gets through it unscathed, unbrute, all that, he can then come out again in May time, and potentially we could start seeing him on Riyadh season cards, which at the end of the day, for a lot of these boxers, especially on this card, that's their dream now, is to be on a Riyadh season card. And for Dalton Smith, I think that's where he's looking at now. Potentially, if he gets the job done on Saturday night, that's where he wants to go. and win a world title, because you don't only just win a world title, you win a lot of money as well.
Yeah, you don't just get a world title purse, you get a Saudi Arabia world title purse, which is, obviously exciting. I think for me as well, it's going to be difficult for Dalton Smith because it's in such a strong division. You've got Devin Haney's obviously still WBC champ after that Ryan Garcia no contest, and those two look to be having a fight each and then a fight together. Teofimo Lopez got the Ring Magazine and WBO, I think it is. Jack Cattrall's looking for a fight with obviously got Arnold Barboza Jr., but he's looking for a world title fight. Subriel Matias, Richardson Hitchens, Liam Parrow. There's so many good fighters. Andy Hiraoka, another Japanese fighter. I think it's going to be difficult for him.
Yeah, and I think Jack Cattrall is an example of how hard it is to get that world title shot at that weight class, because how many final eliminators has he gone through over the last?
Hasn't he?
Barboza for the interim with for the WBO, I believe it is.
So he's still waiting. He's obviously been waiting for his world title shot for a good while, and he's had some really impressive wins over the last few years. So yeah, I think sometimes it's a matter of biding your time, and you don't want to rush into it too quickly, lose your opportunity. But yeah, it's between Cattrall, Adam Azim and Dalton Smith, there's three very good British fighters in that weight class that really could dominate around that world title level.
And I suppose you got what's his name, Big Bang Pierce O'Leary as well, fought on the Wembley show, very impressive finish. So just a lot of talent in that way. And we'll like you said, we'll get onto the predictions a little bit later. Harry Scarffe, Conah Walker, that is a belter of a fight. I know you really like Conah Walker, Ben. Harry Scarffe is a good fighter that's come through a lot of difficult fights. Had a defeat in his last one, I believe, as well. They're both beatable, but they're also both on their day very, very good. It's going to be unbelievable. Yeah,
this is the fight to watch this weekend, I think. There's two fighters that are going to stand in there. They're going to probably look to trade a bit, like Conah Walker, the both of them really. They do a bit of a scrap, but it's a good chance for Walker looking to maybe catch Scarffe coming off a defeat against Chikadze, where he looked to step up to sort of world title level. I think that was an eliminator, or would have given him a shot and an eliminator for a world title. So
I don't know, if I'm honest.
Could have been for the European, because he went over to Germany for it. So.
But that is the fight I'm looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be the best fight of the weekend, I think.
He looked very good against Lewis Ritson last time out, didn't he, Conah Walker? And like you said, both of these men, they're not going to be checking out the range. They're going to go straight at it from the first bout. And yeah, this is the fight on the weekend that I'm certainly going to be watching. And you could make the argument that steals the show, which is always good to have. And then you look further down the card, Ellie Scotney as well.
Yeah.
For me, this is another great fight, but it's a big, big test for her, and somebody's always got to go in that one as well, which is very interesting.
Yeah, huge respect to it. It's going to be a difficult fight. She's one of the better ranked fighters in her division. She's got the IBO world title, which she's putting on the line for Ellie Scotney's titles, and I think it is going to be a really, really good fight. A good test at this stage for Ellie Scotney, and an opportunity for her to kick on and really pick up some belts and look to sort of unify the division, which is obviously what you want to see. But do you think she's going to do it, or do you think this will maybe a one test too many for her? What do you think?
Well, according to BoxRec now, which a lot of the rankings you shouldn't really go off on there, because with Tommy Fury and Jake Paul and all that, Mia Motu is ranked higher than her. She's ranked number 2. Scottney obviously number 4. So if you read that, you could potentially make the argument that it is a step up for Scottney, and it's nice to see her back out, because I want to say as well that she was injured on that undercard of Dalton Smith. She was meant to be fighting on. I could have got this wrong. Blah 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 blah. She was meant to. The pair were meant to meet each other back in October, so that it was that card that got cancelled. So yeah, they've both been waiting around. It's going to be a decent test, but I think Mia Motu can ask a lot of Ellie Scotney. Obviously 20-0. She's got a lot more experience. We'll have to wait and see. But
then last time out, I suppose we saw Ellie Scotney dispatch of Ségolène Lefebvre.
Exactly.
18-0, I think she was. So she was more experienced, unbeaten, higher ranked, got a world title, and Ellie Scotney got through that. So could we be seeing deja vu again, where higher ranked, better fighter on paper, more wins, undefeated, more experienced, but
I think
she
that's
might be able to
better
get it
as well.
done.
When you fight someone that's ranked higher than you, got more wins than you, got more experience, you switch on more. You know, you're not going to be that lazy in camp. You're going to be working hard, and yeah, I think Ellie Scotney's got that, and she'll go 10-0 with this, and then she could potentially look at unifying the division even more after this, which is always the plan for boxers. And you look at her division that she's in now, I want to say there's 2 people above her. I think there's an Argentinian girl that the name goes from me.
I'll have a quick look for you. Nazarena Romero is and then you got Yamaleth Mercado on top of the division, who, off the top of my head, I remember having a quite an impressive victory recently. Oh, beat Ramla Ali, of course. Yeah. So yeah, it's a strong division. It is a strong division.
Once you get up to those sort of world title level fights, you know every test is going to be tough, and there's some decent fighters at the top of that level. But she obviously has got full confidence that she's going to, well, not only unify, but she'll look to go undisputed probably in that weight division. It's always different with a female fighter, isn't it? Because of the sort of the ability to jump between the weight classes is a bit easier. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see where she goes in terms of after this fight, if she can unify and go undisputed, whether she looks to go at different weight classes. But yeah, she's certainly one of the most talented female fighters out of Britain, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And then down at the bottom of the card, we kind of just have an assortment of really exciting prospects coming up through. Hamza Uddin, 3-0. Got a decent fight for him on paper against a fighter with a winning record.
How did we forget about him when we talked about prospects of the year? You know, when we were struggling to think of, I was struggling to find a prospect, and I found Hamza Uddin, and I'm thinking, Christ, why didn't I say him? He is something very special. And there's an argument now of, where do you stop calling people prospects? What sort of winning record should they have? And then you say, oh no, they're not a prospect anymore, they're the real deal. Because everyone's saying that Moses Atoma, he's the prospect of 2024, and he's the one to watch for 2025.
11 fights?
Exactly.
I think
but then you make the argument then, Andy Cruz is also fighting this weekend, he's 4-0, is he a prospect?
Yeah.
So how do you define a prospect?
It's contextual, isn't it? Because Moses Atoma is a prospect because of his age, because he's only 20. People think, oh my God, he's so young. He's still a prospect. Hamza Uddin's very much still a prospect, 3-0. Andy Cruz, Olympic gold medalist, 28, 29, won the IBF, won the international in his first fight. Yes, he's 4-0. He's not necessarily a prospect. No. You know, it does have a...
Because didn't you say you were going to put Andy Cruz down as your prospect of the year last year as a joke?
I would have had that. I would have let that slide. But yeah, it's interesting. Hamza Uddin, you know, all 3 of his fights in his career will be up against fighters with winning records, and that counts for something. Sometimes you could argue, I suppose, that, you know, a bad home fighter is almost easier to beat than a good journeyman. Perhaps you could argue, but ultimately these are guys that can win fights, and you've got to get them out there. You can only be what's in front of you, and he's done that to this point. Yeah,
both him, Uddin and Suleiman, have both looked really impressive for Matchroom in all the fights you've seen them. Like they have got Matchroom have got a good little sort of few fighters that are, even when you look at like George Liddard and things like that as well, they've got some good fighters coming through. But it'd be good to see them back out again. I think it's just a matter of staying active for these fighters, trying to get and build up smart. Like Eddie Earn is quite good in terms of sort of challenging the prospects and giving them like something to look to push them on. So it'd be good to see by the end of 2025 where them two are sort of looking in their career, because they get into that point now probably where you need to be pushing on tests and looking towards title shots then.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Suleiman's currently fighting tough fighter in TBA over 8 rounds.
Two fights in one night
for him.
Yeah, you know, it's one of them. You kind of want him to be having an opponent nice and early and having a proper opponent, so to speak. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. I think it will still be, you know, good to see him out. And I think, at least what you say with Eddie, and I don't know why people criticise him for it, because the way I see it is, if a fighter is not good enough to make it to the top, they're not good enough to make it to the top. There's no point trying to kind of continue the lie that they might be. If they can't beat the kind of fighters they need to beat at the kind of stage they need to be beating them, there's no point just keep feeding them journeymen and then hoping that maybe one day they'll wake up and be a world title level fighter. It's not going to happen, is it?
No.
So you kind of should just test them and see what level they are. And if they're not at the level you thought they were at, shame. If they are at the level you thought they are, great. If they're better than you thought they are, quids in.
And he's found that out, especially last year with like Campbell Hatton. You know, that was meant to be like, he's the future of boxing in Manchester, and then obviously Joe Flint came around and blew all that up. Johnny Fisher as well. He got tested against Dave Allen, and a lot of people criticise that fight for happening. Why are you doing this fight? And I think with Eddie Hearn as well, he's testing him early just to see if he wants to keep on investing in them, keep on giving them the platform that they've been given. Because a lot of fighters, 3-0, 4-0, we never see them until they come on a stage when they're in the away corner fighting for a British or something. We've never heard of them because they haven't had the limelight like some of these fighters. So when they have the opportunities to be on some big shows like this one, they should be fighting people that will cause them some problems. And yeah, I'm all for testing people early in their career just to see where they're at, because boxing, for me, if I was a boxer, I wouldn't want to have a long career in it. I'd want as short as career as possible and make as much money as possible. And I think for a lot of fighters nowadays, especially now with Riyadh season being involved, I think a lot more fighters are going to be moving a lot more quicker through the ranks. Get up there and I'm not... Alright, Hamza Houdini is 3-0. You got Suleiman that's 4-0. They're not going to be fighting for titles anytime soon, I don't think. But when it comes to that point where you don't know if they should be really fighting a journeyman now who we're paying to lose pretty much, or should we put him up against someone that's got a winning record, who's undefeated, and let's see where they're at. I think that's where Eddie Hearn's going with a lot of his fighters now, and I'm all for it because you're getting value for money now. And that's what I meant with when I put Eddie Hearn as my promoter of the year last year. I said he was doing it more on a consistent basis of competitive fights, and that's what I want to see. That's what we all pay our money for. Well, some people more than others. I know. I'm still not over that you pay $7.99. But no, listen, it's good to see them both out. Good ticket sellers as well, so they'll bring a decent crowd, and it should just be a really, really good night in Nottingham on Saturday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you've watched Naoya Inoue on Friday night, you think, I need a bit more boxing. So you've watched the DAZN card Matchroom on Saturday in the UK, and you think, do you know what? I still need some more boxing. You can stay up and you continue to watch another Matchroom show on DAZN. Diego Pacheco versus Steven Nelson. I can't lie, I love Pacheco. I don't know why I like Pacheco so much, because I have no real connection to him any other way than just having watched him fight, but I really love him fighting. And that body shot finish he got on the Polish fighter, I think it was Rosicki or Sulecki, that was it, on his last fight. That was tidy, that wasn't it? That was really tidy.
Yeah, he does always look good, and he's heavy-handed. He can always pull off stoppages like that. But yeah, like it feels like the first weekend where it's like a proper busy weekend of boxing. I think we've got used to it a bit, where there's like, well, we had that one weekend a few weeks ago, there was like 50 cards on one Saturday.
It was the fight when they had the Tasman Fighters one in Australia, wasn't it? It was that week, and they had loads.
So when they panic, like, we haven't put as many cards out as we wanted to, so one weekend we're going to put everything together. Thursday night you're going to have something, Friday morning as well we had.
Now they're mates.
Yeah.
Frank and Eddie, just give each other a call and say, look, I'm going to put a show on Saturday the 7th. And Frank will go, cool, I was going to do then, but there's actually nothing on Saturday the 13th, so I'll put it on then. It's not hard, okay? You've got each other. You and Shalom are going out for coffees now. Just make it happen. Just make it easy for us.
Best friends now, aren't they?
Yeah,
all of
something
them.
like that. But yeah, it's really
fight,
exciting.
This one, mind. 22-0 against 20-0. Like Steven Nelson's not going to be no slouch for him, I don't think. So. No,
I mean, fair play to Pacheco. He's taken 3 good tests, if you include this one in his last 3. Obviously for Sean McCalman, who I think gave him a really good test, 15-0. And then Sulecki, 32-2. Durable Polish fighter. And then now Steven Nelson, and I think he's getting from those fights things he needs that will prove useful when he does eventually get a world title shot up at the top of the division.
Do you reckon he gets a cracker Canelo Alvarez, or
surely sooner rather than later?
Are we just seeing Alvarez against Crawford this year?
I think it's so difficult to say, isn't it? Because what do you do? No one really is going to beat Alvarez for a long while. Canelo's so good. It's difficult. I don't know. I suppose though, if Canelo fights Crawford, is he going to be satisfying any super middleweight obligations in terms of things, or are the IBF going to do what the IBF do and say,
fragment,
take it? You know, if the IBF have taken Usyk's IBF heavyweight title, so he's not the undisputed champ for the rematch. And I mean, I suppose I don't think he fought Edgar Berlanga for the IBF, so I don't know where that is. But
I'm not being funny though. If they did offer him Canelo next, Eddie and Matchroom are not going to say no to that, are they?
Of course not. No.
They'll win the lottery with that. And for someone that the first fight I remember watching him on, and I hate to say this, it was on the undercard of a certain KSI versus Logan Paul fight in LA. That was the first time I came across Pacheco, and since then I've seemed to have watched his career, and that was in, I want to say, 2018, 2019. So since then he's gone from 4-0 to 22-0, and yeah, he's looking like the real deal. And I'm expecting Steve Nelson to come. Obviously Steve Nelson coming off that win on that Riyadh season card in LA, someone that looked very impressive, got the stoppage win. You could ask a lot of questions of Pacheco, but like you said, it's good that he's having another test where potentially on the horizon there is a massive fight and a big money fight, and that's what Eddie Hearn said, is that's what the aim is at the end of the day for Pacheco, is to get him that money fight, get him that big fight where we see if he's got what it takes. And if he gets through this on Saturday night, I don't see why not. He can't challenge Canelo Alvarez next. I wouldn't be against it, and I think it would make for a very, very good fight.
Be an interesting fight as well, because Canelo, you know, he's filled out to super middleweight quite well, but he is small. He's a small person. I think I saw a picture at the Ring Magazine Awards. He's like shorter than Ryan Garcia or something. Like he's quite short. And Pacheco, like me, is a fellow sort of gangly armed man, so I think it would be such a contrast of styles. It would be really interesting to watch.
If it weren't Canelo, though, I'd love to see him and Christian and Billy fight for a world title.
Yeah, that would be a great fight. Again, two contrasting styles, but just big hitters. That would be a great fight. Really, really great.
Who did Billy fight last?
He fought... the name escaped. It was a really good fight.
Yeah, the Ukrainian guy.
That was it.
Ryashchenko.
Yeah, that was a good fight. That was in Montreal as well, I think.
That was a really great fight. And we said it already once. Andy Cruz.
Prospect.
It is a joke that he's fighting someone 20-1 in his fifth fight. I'm pretty sure he's got some pretty strong rankings with some. I think it's WBA. He's a challenger for the world title up on that. So I think it'll be not long at all before we see Andy Cruz testing himself for a world title, and you know, I look forward to it. It's
another really tough weight class as well, isn't it? When you look at the top of it and some of the fighters involved.
Yeah, he's a lightweight, isn't he, Cruz? So it's the whole Tank Davis,
him and Sam
etc.
Noakes, you know, just for Sam's favourite fighter.
Cordina.
Good technique. Oh,
yeah,
imagine that.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see him on a sort of Riyadh season etc. show soon, because I think Eddie does like him.
5v5, him and Zepeda.
Yeah. Oh, with the Golden Boy over in the States.
Yeah,
that could be a good fight. That'd be a really good fight. He's just come, and do you know what? Actually, I think we take for granted, because he was a very, very good amateur, obviously. But actually, what he's done really well is work and suit towards that professional style a little bit more. He holds his feet a little bit more at times, lets himself get his shots off a bit more, put a bit more power into it. And sort of look to finish people instead of just beat them comprehensively. And I think that's something we're going to see, sort of build himself up to be a real professional boxer, because his skill is undoubtable, but it's whether or not he can translate that amateur style into the professional ring.
Because in amateur boxing, it's all about scoring, ain't it? Not about knocking out your opponent. So, no, he's doing well at the moment. It is
different, Nick. So you can have people who probably don't have a very good amateur background, but are really good professional fighters. So, and
vice versa, people who have an incredible amateur pedigree and then don't quite do it in the professional ranks. It really depends on your style and on all sorts of things. But it's always exciting to see Andy Cruz. I'm looking forward to that one, and a great card.
Yeah, will he be a world champion before he's 10-0?
I think we'll get a world title shot before he's 10-0. Whether he'll win it, I don't know. And I think that's the difficulty, because he will get a shot beforehand, and so if he loses it, he won't be 10-0. It'll be 8-1 or whatever. I think he'll get a world title shot before he gets to 10 fights. I think so.
I reckon we see it this year. I think. if he carries on going the way he's
It'd just
going.
be hard to see who they match him up against in terms of.
Yeah, because at the weight class, obviously, Tank Davis has a number of them.
He's
Lamont
fighting
Roach.
soon, ain't he?
Is it Lamont Roach? I believe he's fighting, and there's a few good fights in the undercard. Shakur Stevenson,
Yeah,
WBC
the
champ.
division is stacked. Ain't it?
Lomachenko is the IBF, but he's got medical exemption at the moment, I think. So he's not going to be fighting for
this
a little while.
fight that he's fighting for is the IBF International.
I could see Andy Cruz fighting for like an interim belt by the end of this year, but maybe
well,
not.
You've got Keyshawn Davis fighting Barinchik for the WBO. The winner of that, especially if it's Keyshawn Davis, you've got a 13-0 versus 5-0 world title fight. That would be, 18 combined fight world title fight would be quite impressive. And I just love Keyshawn Davis box rec photo. It's him when he's like 11 or something. He just looks like a child, which is just funny to imagine him as this sort of, dangerous professional boxer now. And you look at that picture, but it's also Harry's just seen it now.
Sorry, I have never seen it before.
It's funny. It always cracks me up. But great card, great fights, great time to be a boxing fan.
Yep.
Ultimately,
we're back.
Great time.
2025 is up and running now.
To do the boxing news predictions. Let me guess, Harry. Your phone's dead. You've lost it. It's not on you.
Oh no. I've already made.
We're going to do the Dalton Smith card on the Boxing News app for our predictions. Boxing News don't give us any money, unfortunately, but we use their app for our predictions. Anyways, you can join in if you would like on the app.
To be fair, the first one on the I don't think
it's not even happening anymore.
They're quite bad at that sometimes, aren't they? If I was going to give them, it's only 3 fights. Oh no, we can't do that one, can we? We can.
We can.
I think we can.
I think Pacheco, it would just be the Andy Cruz in him, wouldn't it?
Let's have a quick look. Apologies for the immense professionalism on display right now.
What about the Inoue one? We should really plan these before we start the podcast. We should say, right, we're going to do this one instead.
Yeah, it's almost like we knew we've been doing it. We knew we were going to do a podcast this morning. No, there's only 2 on the Inoue fight.
We'll go with Pacheco.
We'll go with Pacheco versus Stephen Nelson.
Yeah.
As we planned all along, this was all just a big ruse. Ernesto Mercado, Jose Pedraza, super lightweight 10-rounder. Mercado, prospect 16-0, big hitter. A lot of knockouts. I'm going to go for a Mercado knockout.
Same.
Yeah, we got.
God.
That's the only issue.
I wonder what's going to happen. Andy Cruz versus Salcido Gamez, 4-0 versus 20-1. Cruz 2 knockouts in his 4 wins. Salcido 70% knockout rate. Harry, what are you going for?
Andy Cruz points decision.
Yeah, I've gone Cruz points.
Oh no,
you never back a Mexican to be stopped, do you? So.
No, exactly. Going to go for the same. And then the main event: Diego Pacheco versus Stephen Nelson. Super middleweight 12-rounder. You've got a 82% knockout for Pacheco, 80% for Nelson. What are you going for, Ben?
I've gone Pacheco knockout.
Pacheco points.
Pacheco knockout.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's going to come down to the rounds on this one between me and Ben, or Harry's going to win it outright. We'll have to see. I'm going to go for 20-something rounds. I'm going to go for 28 rounds. No, that doesn't work.
27 I went for.
I'm going 26.
I've gone 23.
Ooh.
So early stoppage then, maybe.
We should have a winner.
Okay.
We'll have a winner. We'll definitely have a winner.
We should actually keep tab.
You know what we should do now? We should do the Dalton Smith fight as well, so we have more to go off. Because I've already got my predictions sorted for it.
Yeah, but one of the fights isn't happening.
Well, Dalton Smith points. Does he get the win?
I agree, yeah.
All right. Harry Scarffe, do you reckon he wins, or do you reckon Conah Walker may...
I think Conah Walker stops him.
Okay. Conah Walker stops him?
Yep.
Okay.
You heard
I
it
like
first.
That. I like that.
Well, you probably didn't. Someone else has probably said it as well.
And then Ellie Scotney against Mia Motu.
Ellie Scotney points decision.
Tough points,
Yeah.
I've gone for a draw for the fight that isn't happening. So
probably the best decision,
I should technically get points for that.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. So,
Happy days. We forgot the cameras were rolling.
Times. If you guys want to join in on the Boxing News app, you always can. Let us know how you do in the comment section or what you've gone for. Let us know anything. You can tell us, how you're feeling, what your dog's name is. Just let us know anything in the comments. Other than that, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify for audio episodes, Instagram, TikTok for short form content, Twitter for updates, Facebook if you fancy, if you're over the age of 40, LinkedIn if you're a little, I don't know, e-commerce guy and you like that sort of thing, follow us on LinkedIn. Otherwise, Appreciate you all for listening, and we'll catch you all next week for another episode.
Punches chance. Punches Chance Podcast.